Jake, you never responded to the challenge. You publicly stated that I use cocaine. I do not. So I told you you could randomly cocaine test me for the next 10 years. I believe that you're a cheater, and I believe that you use steroids. So I want to randomly steroid test you.
UFC CEO Dana White brutally accused Jake Paul of using steroids to fight old and gray fighters like Mike Tyson. Fight commentator Joe Rogan stated that he would prefer not to watch a 58-year-old man face a younger opponent like Jake Paul. Rogan believes that Tyson can fight one more bout at his age and supports his efforts to take on a YouTuber. Joe went on to say that 58 years old is not as old as it was in the 1990s.
What do you think of Tyson and Jake?
I wish it wasn't a thing. I wish it wasn't a thing where a 58-year-old guy was going to fight a 28-year-old. I fully support his desire to do it. He's not going to live forever. Maybe he wants one more shot at it. Maybe his body can do one more fight. He looks great on the mitts.
Yeah.
I could look good on the mitts.
Yeah.
What you want to see is him sparring. You want to see him hitting the bag for multiple rounds. I want to see how your feet move. I want to see what it looks like if you're off balance when you're throwing combinations. He's 58, you know? I support him. 58 today is not 58 when I was 21. Conventional wisdom would say this is a terrible fight.
Frank Warren, on the contrary, expressed his concerns for Mike Tyson's health in his bout with Jake Paul. He shared that boxing is not for 60-year-old people, even though he acknowledged Jake Paul as a good promoter and entertainer.
Made my opinion made. I don't think people that age should be fighting, but as long as he's medically fit and he's found fit to box, that's his choice. You know, and Jake, I've got a lot of respect for him. And Nikita, his business partner, they're very shrewd guys, and the fight's on. Whatever I say is not going to make any difference to that. But, you know, boxing's not for 60-year-old guys, that's for sure.
Dana White is convinced that Mike Tyson shouldn't be fighting an opponent who is 30 years younger than him. White absolutely hates Jake Paul and wishes that Tyson succeeds in knocking out the problem child.
Pretty much everybody in the room and the other room wants to see Jake Paul get knocked out. When this fight happens, Tyson will be 58 fucking years. Under any circumstances, almost 60-year-old man shouldn't be fighting 27. When he actually fought somebody who was a boxer, who was his age, Tommy, and who was his size, he lost. When are you gonna stop fighting gimmick fights?
I think he just called Mike Tyson a gimmick.
This guy's 27, he's in his prime, and nobody wants to see Mike get beat by this fucking jerk-off.
According to Dana White, Jake Paul is still lying about him, but he doesn't care even the slightest about Paul. White only mentions Jake Paul when questioned, saying that Jake lied about signing him if he defeated Mike Perry.
I don't hate Jake Paul. Jake Paul's doing his thing. He's out there. He went out and lied and said that I said I would sign Mike Perry if he beat him. I've been trying to assassinate him. You haven't heard me say shit about Jake Paul. And the only time I ever talk about Jake Paul is if I'm asked about him. He just brought him up.
I have a great question.
I wouldn't have brought him up, right? And he went out and lied and said that I said all this shit, and it's the furthest thing from the truth.
Tyron Woodley made quite audacious comments on the November 15th Mike Tyson match. Despite Mike Tyson's advanced age of 60, Woodley claimed that the fight was evenly distributed on both sides. Tyron remarked that considering Iron Mike's terrible performance in the ring, no one would have faced him in his prime.
Fight coming up, Jake Paul, you know, and also the Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Who do you think has this one right here? I mean, who do you have your money on?
It's a very even fight, to be honest, and it's even because of the age of Mike Tyson.
Okay.
I think it's an even fight because of the age of Mike Tyson. He's completely, obviously, out of his prime. When in his prime, most of his fights were almost attempted murder. So literally, Jake wouldn't have stood a chance. Nobody would even commission or sanction a fight against him and Mike.
Dana White further commented on the difference between the UFC and the types of boxing matches Jake Paul typically engages in. White stated that he doesn't mind seeing smaller or older UFC fighters go up against Paul in the boxing ring. He believes Paul would stand no chance in the UFC. Additionally, Dana claimed that if Alex Pereira were to face Jake Paul in a boxing match, Pereira would completely dominate him, and he has no intention of letting such a match happen anytime soon.
Is the best in the world fight the best? That's what we do, you know? What Jake Paul and those guys do is completely different. And again, the kid's doing his thing. I'm not shitting on him. And listen, if smaller, older guys want to fight him, then they're doing their thing. Who am I to say?
He did say, though, that the guy Chama. Who's Chama?
Alex Pereira. Do you think that would fight?
I know it's dumb, but Pereira would kill him. Pereira would kill Jake Paul.
Pereira.
Who?
Alex
Pereira. Oh, my God, exactly. It'd be murder.
You think
That's
that
why
fight
I
would
told
happen?
Jake yesterday, murder.
what else I was saying about Dana too is like the boxing.
But how's that fight possibly going to happen?
I
That's just
wonder
not going to happen.
The commission would even let that fight happen.
That's how
I mean,
bad
you're
it would
talking boxing or UFC?
Boxing. He's
He'd
talking
kick
about boxing.
his head to another planet. It would be.
We talked about this. Jake calls people out that he knows that.
Jake Paul has stated that his upcoming fight against Mike Tyson may be his toughest yet, recognizing Tyson's immense power and intensity as a formidable challenge. Despite the respect he holds for Tyson's legendary abilities, Paul cautioned that his own strength and resilience shouldn't be underestimated, noting his capacity to withstand and land powerful punches. Expressing his excitement, Paul looks forward to facing Tyson in the ring on fight night.
Mike, I really want to see, bro, because you're Iron Mike Tyson, but I have an iron chin. People know that. Like, I take shots, so I think people are underestimating me being able to deal with his power. I am biting off a lot. This is definitely the toughest, most savage, lethal opponent, regardless of age, because the power is the last thing to go.
No nerves in you at all about this?
No, not at all. I literally can't wait to look across the ring and see him and give him a death stare.
Dana White recently voiced his frustration with Jake Paul and his manager, with whom he has a rocky history. White revealed that Paul's manager, who once worked for him, has since transitioned to representing Paul, which White views as a shift toward catering to the YouTuber turned boxer.
You came out with today, nobody on earth thinks that you really wrote that. You're too stupid. And for those of you that don't know, if you've ever watched one of his fights and you see when they do the stare down, the guy that's standing in the middle with the warlock nose and the big warlock wart on his face, apparently that's his manager. And that guy used to be an accountant for me. And let's just say this, he no longer works for me, and I think he's a scumbag.
Furthermore, Dana White accused Jake Paul of engaging in unacceptable business practices and challenged him to start his own promotion company. Dana mocked Paul, saying he wouldn't be able to achieve the same pay-per-view success, and that neither Paul nor his manager could treat fighters better than he does.
You think that you can do it better than we do? We're doing this whole thing wrong. You could treat the fighters better than we do. Knock yourself out. Go start your own business. It's easy to do. Go get the Warlock on it. The Warlock can get it started for you. What you and the Warlock should be focused on is your business. You're tanking. You can't sell pay-per-views. You're calling out Jorge Masvidal because he's a pay-per-view superstar. Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor, Mike Tyson. These are all superstars.
Conversely, Dana White mentioned that he wasn't involved in Jake Paul's fight against bare-knuckle champion Mike Perry and criticized Paul for making false accusations. White remarked that Paul's fights are repetitive and gimmicky, as he tends to fight older, retired opponents to gain recognition. Dana also admitted he couldn't be bothered to even mildly acknowledge Paul's fight with Tommy Fury.
He said all that shit to the media. Dana told Mike Perry that that's all lies. None of that's true. I didn't tell Mike Perry. I haven't talked to Mike Perry. And I didn't even know Jake Paul was fighting. So he's saying all this shit. I was in Italy. I didn't even know the guy was fighting. When Jake Paul lost to Fury, I haven't really paid attention to Jake Paul.
I have love for Jake too. I don't know when a fight's happening. I really
all
don't.
The same. He fights older people that are smaller. It's all the same shit.
Dana White recently made bold claims about Jake Paul, saying that the YouTuber turned boxer uses steroids. White took a hard stance on this issue while firmly denying any claims of his own drug use. He criticized Paul for relying on fighters who are already pay-per-view successes to boost his own events, arguing that Paul himself isn't a strong enough draw to generate sales independently.
Pay-per-view. So you do whatever the hell you want to do. I'm ready to roll, buddy. I don't use cocaine. Do you use steroids? Let's do this, Jake.
Former boxer Bernard Hopkins voiced his disapproval of the matchup between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, expressing his concerns over the age and experience gap. Hopkins admires Tyson as a boxing legend and believes his skill and legacy deserve respect, but he sees Jake Paul as part of a different category within the sport and couldn't bring himself to respect the Disney kid.
Is it because of the... Jay, I look at Mike, it's like, I look at him different.
Tyron Woodley expressed a neutral stance on the outcome of the fight between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, highlighting that he doesn't have a strong opinion on who might win. Woodley noted that both fighters have the potential to deliver an exciting performance, especially given the different age demographics in their fan bases and their separate skill set.
And you know what? I'm glad I don't have to. Like, sometimes when I commentate, sometimes when I analyze, I gotta have a strong who I think should win. But I'm going to watch and I'm going to see who's going to win. They're going to go out there and do the work.
Moreover, Lennox Lewis commented that it may be hard to believe that Tyson can throw punches and move around at the age of 60. Lewis is convinced that Mike Tyson can hold his own in the fight and take over the problem child.
It's a task. You know, it's hard to box at when you're that old, moving around the ring, throwing punches, getting punches thrown at you. But I think
Dana White commented on his view of Jake Paul, saying that he doesn't hate or love him. White sees Paul as a young guy focused on making money and entertaining fans, and he doesn't place any blame on anyone for Paul's approach to the sport.
I feel like every time you talk about him, you're never really that angry. Is it because you see?
I said I don't hate the kid. Then he came out yesterday and said, "Well, now that you love me." Well, I never said I love you. I said I didn't hate you. No, listen, he's a young kid out there trying to make some money, and I don't fault anybody.
Jake Paul's ongoing rivalry with UFC CEO Dana White continues, marked by several verbal exchanges and differing views on the sport. Recently, White responded to questions about Paul's claims, acknowledging that Paul is a good self-promoter and skilled at generating buzz around his fights. White clarified that contrary to some of Paul's statements, he has not banned Paul from the UFC.
Did you see that video of Jake Paul saying he was banned from all UFC events and then put the costume on?
Yeah.
I was banned from all UFC events by Dana White.
Oscar De La Hoya was there. Okay, let's put it that way. But he's banned from the UFC. Listen, that kid knows how to market and do his thing, and Jake Paul's welcome to come to UFC.
While Dana White may not be particularly fond of Jake Paul, Mike Tyson expressed appreciation for Paul's promotional skills, describing him as God-sent in terms of bringing the business to him. Tyson explained that Paul's knack for self-marketing and his ability to stir up strong emotions among fans are what make his fights so appealing and profitable. Paul's provocative statements have become a formula for drawing attention.
It's by the grace of God this guy Jake Paul came around.
Okay, now you say by the grace of God. Why do you say that?
He made noise. He caused for people to hate him.
He brings it.
Well, that's from hate. There's no bigger finance than hate. Hate sells more than love. Love is more.
Kamaru Usman added to Tyson's statements of hate selling more than love. Kamaru commented that Floyd Mayweather understood exactly why he needs to become a hated boxer, and that would make his fight sell.
Like that.
I think Floyd understood this. He realized, yes, his style might have not been friendly to watch. Of course, everybody, the spectators, they all want to see the violence. They all want to see blood, even though they're not willing to risk themselves.
Exactly. This is what I always try to explain to people, especially when I'm talking to the corporate American. What we do, people avoid their whole entire life.
On the other hand, Mike Tyson noted that both he and Jake Paul intentionally cultivate a love and hate persona because it's central to their careers. Tyson explained that he has spent his life in the ring, getting hit and fighting back, making it natural for him to embrace the controversy. He shared that he's grown accustomed to humiliating himself, if it means drawing attention and hyping up the fight.
To avoid their whole entire life. What we do it for a living. It means nothing to us to get up in the morning and get punched in the face, get our nose broken and punched back. They avoided their whole entire life, at least they tried to. And they humiliate themselves trying to avoid it. With us, they snap of a finger. Let's do it.
Cedric Antonio expressed his intrigue regarding Mike Tyson's choice to fight the much younger Jake Paul, saying that this type of matchup is just what boxing needs to stay exciting. He also humorously suggested that Tyson might be using a lot of marijuana to maintain his focus during the intense training sessions.
He said, what am I, 54?
He's 59. He'll be 58 or 59 when he go in the ring.
Oh, that's crazy right there. I mean, that's the thing, you don't want to see, you want to see him have a great performance. That's the one thing, and I think that he is focused on it and tightened up. You know what I'm saying? And, he's training hard.
Oh, yeah.
Because he had been smoking a lot of weed at one time.
Oh, yeah, bro.
And
yeah, smoking a lot of weed at 2 times.
Yeah. So, so I think, this is going to be an interesting fight, man. I mean, boxing just...
Although Mike Tyson has respect for Jake Paul, he genuinely wants to seriously hurt the problem child. Furthermore, Tyson believes that Jake is a good fighter at his own level, but he hasn't reached the level of the legendary Iron Mike.
Bad intentions.
When you look at Jake Paul, and I don't know as much about Jake Paul as I know about you. Everybody's very familiar with the Mike Tyson story. Do you think he's a legitimate boxer?
Well, he can fight, yeah. For boxers his level, yes.
Meaning what? Not your level?
I do not believe so. No, not at all.
Brendan Schaub offered a unique perspective on the Mike Tyson fight, outlining various scenarios where Tyson could lose or even Jake could lose. He also shared that the fight could end with no decision, which would be a terrible business model.
I love Mike Tyson, love Jake. I hope it crushes, but for the life of me, I cannot figure out the upside to this. Let's go through the scenario here. If you're Jake, so you knock him out, horrible, dude. What the beat up an old man. You get knocked out. They told you this guy's a joke. You got beat up by a 58-year-old. The third scenario here is it goes to decision. That's a disaster and nobody's coming back. That's a disaster business-wise for Netflix. It's a disaster for Jake Paul. Went to decision with 58-year-old Mike Tyson. The only person who wins is not Netflix, not Jake Paul. Mike Tyson wins. He can do no wrong. He gets knocked out. He's 58. Still getting paid. He beats Jake Paul. Yeah, all the old guys are like, yeah, daddy. Goes to decision. Mike Tyson wins. For Netflix, dude, I don't know. Let's say Mike Tyson wins. What are you going to do? What's next? Mike Tyson and then Logan Paul to revenge his brother? And then Mike Tyson, KSI? That's the business model? Okay.
Jorge Masvidal chose not to comment on the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight, mentioning that there are many unknowns in the match. He expressed concern for Mike Tyson due to his advanced age, but declined to make any predictions before the fight.
Man, I don't know, bro. I don't know, man, about that fight. It's just so hard to call it. You know, I don't know Mike's, he's 60 years old, right? Something like that. Like, damn, that's an old-ass dude, bro. You know, and I'm not trying to rank on Jake because if you're getting the bag for it, you know, what could you do? It's just, I heard it's with 16 ounces, then I heard it's not with, I don't know, there's so many things going on with it. I don't know what to say if it's an exhibition.
Conversely, Jake Paul accused Dana White of taking most of the fighter's earnings in the UFC, claiming that boxing is far superior to MMA. Paul stated that while boxers earn an average of $30 million, MMA fighters make only around $600,000, which he feels is inadequate for the risks they take. In response, Dana White criticized Paul and suggested that he start his own MMA organization if he wants to pay fighters differently.
Does Dana White pay his fighters fairly? True or false, and why?
They make less than janitors. They're risking their lives in the ring, and they don't have long-term health care. The heavyweight champion of the world in boxing is making $30 million, and the heavyweight champion in the UFC is making $600K. So where's all that extra money going?
If you don't like it, there's a simple solution to this problem.
Dana White trolled Jake Paul for accusing him of using cocaine, so White had an interesting challenge for the YouTuber. Dana stated that Paul could randomly cocaine test him, and it would turn out negative. However, Dana needed to confirm whether Jake was using steroids, so he would be random tested for that.
Jake, you never responded to the challenge. You publicly stated that I use cocaine. I do not. So I told you you could randomly cocaine test me for the next 10 years. I believe that you're a cheater, and I believe that you use steroids. So I want to randomly steroid test you.
Former boxer Evander Holyfield stated that Jake Paul has never experienced taking strong punches. Holyfield believes that Paul can compete against a legend like Mike Tyson if he stays close to Tyson and prevents him from executing his powerful combinations.
It's all depending on how Jake fights, you know. The point of the matter is, do Jake Paul take a good shot? I never seen him get hit.
On the other hand, Oscar De La Hoya shared that Jake Paul is going to be super strong on November 15th since he has jumped to heavyweight. De La Hoya is rooting for Mike Tyson because if he lands one solid shot on Jake, then it's game over for him.
Yes, he gained a lot of muscle lately. He's gonna be strong up there, so just be careful, Tyson. But then again, Mike Tyson landing one punch, he can end it all in one round.
Meanwhile, Canadian-American journalist Ariel Helwani couldn't believe that the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight was actually happening, since it seemed like a dream. At first he thought that this is just for show, but as November 15th comes closer, there have been more and more posters, trailers, and countdowns starting in the US.
Starting to feel now like there's a snowball effect. And now we are 10 days out. As you can see right over there, November 15th on Netflix. If you go on the app right now, you could see, a promotion for it. You can see that there's a countdown show that is going to kick off on November 7th. That's in 2 days. And they're starting to really ramp up the promotion. If you watch, and here it is on Netflix, how it looks if you go on the app right now. If you're watching any sporting event, especially here in the United States, very good chance you're seeing a commercial or some sort of marketing for the fight, which is interesting. Now they're starting to really ramp things up around the major hubs in America. I've seen this courtesy of MVP co-founders Nikisa Badarian's Instagram page. In Atlanta, you're seeing billboards all over the place. You're seeing stuff like this. Now, I don't know.
Do you believe Mike Tyson can put an end to Jake Paul's winning streak? Can Tyson's stamina keep up with Paul's energy? We would love to hear your thoughts. Let us know in the comments section below and subscribe for more content like this.